Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to create a box modeling technique doing a wine glass. So I'll need you to go to your front or your side view and go ahead and go to view and click on image plane and import image. Find the image that you'd like to use for your background as you are modeling this wine glass. Okay. I would probably scale this up a little bit larger and move it up to the 0, 0 axes in the X and Y. And notice that we've got a perspective distortion, which means that we're going to just look at, because you can see that perspective on the glass on the top and the bottom. So just ignore those two areas. Center it the best you can. Looks like mine's centered pretty good, so I don't have to worry about that too much. And what we're going to do next is add this to a layer, but let's go ahead and back it up a little bit from your perspective view. You don't want it on the same plane, so let's go ahead and back it up a little bit. And let's place that on a layer. So add a layer, rename it something like glass, and save it. And then what I want you to do is turn that to reference so you won't be selecting it all the time. Okay, go to the front view and go to show and turn off grid, because we're not going to be using the EP curve tool. We're going to use box modeling technique. Let's go to the perspective and just get started so you get an idea of what I'm going to be doing here. So make sure your poly modeling shelf is on, and click on the cylindrical primitive, and let's go ahead and scale that down a little bit. Because we're going to do low poly modeling and then smooth it, we'll go to polycylinder and let's do the subdivision axes to something like 8. Now it seems like not very good. To a good start, but it's good enough because we know we're going to smooth it. It makes it a little easier to model too as well. Okay, so with that done, we're going to kind of make it the width of the thickness of the glass. So we'll start with that, zoom in a little bit, and let's go ahead and move that down. And I'm going to scale this up to the width of the base of the glass, and then scale it down to the width of the glass thickness. Okay? So basically I'm going to start right at this point. So you can see that I got the thickness just about right. Okay? But I'm going to start it right here. Okay? Alright, so this is what I've got so far. Alright. So what we're going to do now is that with box modeling, we're going to actually take the surface face and extrude it up. So I can do one of two things. I can click each one of those faces, or I can go click on the brush tool that allows me to brush these faces, which is kind of nice. Now if you use the brush tool, what happens is that, notice that when I clicked on that object just using selection, it went all the way through, but with the brush tool it does not do that. So when I brush that on, you can see that if I go underneath, it didn't select anything else. It's really imperative that you don't select any back faces or anything else or vertices when you're extruding. The way to check that is to hit the 4 key and just kind of rotate around the object, make sure nothing else is selected. Or you can keep it in the 5 key, which is shaded view to see. You just have to make sure you rotate around. You do not want to extrude without checking these things. Okay? So I'm going to hit the Q key to get out of this function. Now with all the faces on top selected, we're going to start extruding the shape of this up. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control E. Okay? Control E is a hotkey to extrude up. So Control E. And from the side view, this is a good way. I'm just going to hit W and move that up and follow the outside of this image. So I'm going to go ahead and move up and hit the R key for scaling. Now, notice that I'm not going to scale with non-uniform scaling, which is these two. Okay, we want to go in the center and use uniform scaling and scale that in. Notice that we have a real sharp angle here that we're going to scale in. Okay, so we moved it up and scaled it in. So it looks like this. So you can see what we've got so far. And so you can see we're getting kind of that shape. Okay, now we can refine this later. It's not a big deal right now, and we will. We'll refine it later. So that's our first step. You can see that's what we got so far. So always check in your perspective view what you've done with your extrusion. Okay, so I'm going to hit the Q key. All right, so we still have the faces selected. I'm going to go Control E again. Okay, I'm going to hit the W key, which is move. And I'm going to move that up, okay, up to that point right there. We've got some bumps here that we're going to actually model. And I'm going to hit the R key again and just kind of scale that in, kind of shape that to that shape. Now, I'm just going to scale that in just a little bit, okay. All right, so I'm going to go in there. Now that I know how to control my uniform scaling, I don't need to go to my perspective as much. Now, if you're kind of new to this, I would always check it first. You can always go back, Control Z, and then scale in if you want to, that way. But you need to have your reference. Let's go ahead and scale that in a little bit. There we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is Control E again, and W key, and move it up. Now, what we're going to do is this time we're going to add that little bump there. Okay. So to add that little bump, a lot of times I will scale after, like that a little bit. Here's that little bump. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bump there. And we're going to move that up, so I'm going to Control E again and move that up, hitting the W key. Okay, so we're going to get a little bump there, right? And you can see that I'm not going to scale that in, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and Control E, okay? And this time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scale that in like that. Now, if you want to see what's happening, you can hit the 3 key, okay? That'll show that we've got kind of a little bump, a little ridge right here, okay? You can see that little ridge right there that I've got right here, okay? I'm kind of making that ridge, right? Hit the 1 key again, right? Now that might be too much, so I'm going to move that back out a little bit. And what I can do is I just move that up just slightly and hit the 3 key, and you can see that kind of makes that a little less, a little softer. Okay. So 1 and 3. 1 is what you're actually modeling, and 3 is a smooth preview. We talked about that before. All right. So what we're going to do next is go in here and looks like my audio went bad again. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and keep going. There we go. All right, so let's go back and Control Z. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and extrude up. So Control E and move that up. And just continue following that reference as we go up. Control E and move that up. And Control E and scale that in a little bit. Okay. Move that up just a smidgen, like that. There we go. So we're making the base. There we go. And so we got a lot of intricate things happening here. And Control E and move that up. And scale that in just a little bit, like that. There we go. And Control E, move that up, and scale in a little bit like that. And we're finally getting, and I'm going to move that down probably just a little bit, like that. And Control E, move it up. So when you extrude, you have to move or you have to scale. You can't leave it in the same spot. You'll have two faces on top of each other, which is not a good idea. So Control E and scale that in like this. Okay, we're getting to the point where we're getting almost to the piping right here. Okay, a couple more. Control E and move, and Control E and move and scale. Okay, so now we're ready to get into the piping that goes all the way up to the stem. So you see that intricate layering I got going on here. If I hit the 3 key, you can see that it's starting to show that intricacy that you see in this model here as I go in here. Okay, so the next step is to go in and go ahead and do the shaft or the piping right here. And so with that selected, again, you got to make sure that those are still selected in the side view or front view. Do Control E again, that's extrude, and then W key. So you're going to be using this method all the way through. Now notice I can't go all the way up because it's spanning out, it's fluting out a little bit. So I'm going to go in here, go about halfway, Control E, move it, and notice that I got to fan it out a little bit, right about here. Slowly fanning it out. Control E, W, move it, and fan it out. Slowly fanning it out. And Control E, moving it, and fanning it out. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we'll do the little pieces up here, the detail up here. Again, it's hard to see what that detail looks like. Get about as close as you can. So I'm going to do Control E, and I'm going to scale that out like that. And you can see that, hit the F key, you can see what's happening here. It looks like it's a bad polygon. It's on top of itself, but you'll notice that once I do a Control E again and move it up, we're fine. See, now it turned into a nice polygon shape. And so you can get that shape that looks like that. Okay. Again, that I might have gone too far, so let's go Control Z back. With that selected, I'm going to scale that out just a little bit, and then do a Control E again and move it up. So you can get that little ridge there. So I'm creating this ridge right at the bottom right here at the base. That little guy right here. So I'm going to move that up a little bit like that. And I'm going to do a Control E. And it takes some time to get used to this technique. Okay, I'm going to fan that out. And you'll get better at it. Fan that out a little bit, and then Control E and move that up. So you get some nice divisions there. And then we got one last one. Okay, we'll do a Control E and then scale that out like that, as you can see. And then Control E, move that up like that. So now I'm getting that really nice detail right there. And then it goes in. Okay, so Control E, scale in, then it goes in sharply, Control E, move up, and then I got the base of the glass that's going to start. So at the base, so there we go. So I'm going to do the base right here. All right, so now we're ready to do the glass part. So I got the bottom part, now ready to do the glass. Okay, so there's the stem. All right, so I've got to stop the video. I don't know why the audio stopped. I'm going to stop the video.